Birds. Creatures of the sky, symbols of freedom, beauty, and sometimes mystery. They've fascinated us for thousands of years, appearing in myths, inspiring art, and even guiding science. But what are birds, really? Let's begin where all stories start, deep in time. Around 150 million years ago, in the late Jurassic period, a dinosaur walked, or rather flapped, into the fossil record. Archaeopteryx. Part reptile, part bird, it had feathers like a modern bird, but teeth and claws like a small dinosaur. This was no mere curiosity, it was a signal, an evolutionary leap. Birds are, quite literally, modern-day dinosaurs. Descendants of a group of two-legged predators called theropods, the same lineage that gave us the mighty Tyrannosaurus rex. But while many dinosaurs vanished, birds adapted. Feathers, once for insulation or display, evolved into instruments of flight. Bones became lighter, metabolisms quickened, and with time, birds took to the skies. Today, there are over 10,000 known species of birds, from the tiniest bee hummingbird, just 2 inches long, to the towering ostrich, taller than many people. They live on every continent, from the steaming Amazon to the icy reaches of Antarctica. And each one is a marvel of adaptation. Take a moment to picture a hummingbird. Its wings beat up to 80 times per second, so fast they blur into invisibility. It can hover in place, fly backward, even upside down. Its heart races at over 1,200 beats a minute. To fuel this, it visits hundreds of flowers a day, drinking nectar with a tongue shaped like a tiny straw. Now picture an albatross, wings like sails, stretching over 11 feet wide. It spends most of its life at sea, gliding effortlessly on ocean winds. They can fly thousands of miles without flapping once, using a technique called dynamic soaring. Birds are defined by their feathers. No other animal has them. Feathers insulate, repel water, provide camouflage, attract mates, and enable flight. And they come in colors more vivid than any paint, thanks to microscopic structures that bend and scatter light. And yet many birds cannot fly. Penguins, for example, are masterful swimmers. Their wings evolved into flippers, perfect for slicing through icy waters. Then there's the kiwi of New Zealand, shy, nocturnal, with nostrils at the end of its beak to sniff out insects in the dark. But perhaps nothing about birds is as mesmerizing as their songs. The dawn chorus, that symphony of chirps and warbles as the sun rises. Birdsong is not just pleasant noise, it's language, art, territory, identity. Some birds learn songs the way we learn speech, by listening, imitating, and practicing. Songbirds have specialized brain structures for this. A mockingbird, for example, can imitate dozens of other species, as well as car alarms and cell phone ringtones. Let's not forget the lyrebird, incredible mimic, chainsaws, cameras, even construction sounds. It can reproduce them all, but why? Often to attract a mate. In the bird world, talent can be as seductive as looks. Speaking of love, courtship in birds can be elaborate. The birds of paradise in Papua New Guinea put on stunning performances, flashing feathers like fans, dancing with precise choreography. It's theatre, it's art, it's nature's romance. Other species, like the albatross, form lifelong pair bonds. They dance too, awkward little shuffles and beak taps that strengthen their bond year after year. Then there's migration, one of nature's greatest feats. Every year, billions of birds embark on epic journeys. The Arctic tern travels from the North Pole to the South Pole and back over 40,000 miles a year. How do they navigate? Stars, the sun, magnetic fields, landmarks, their built-in GPS systems. Yet not all migration is that extreme. Swallows, cranes, geese, they return to the same breeding grounds every spring. You might see them overhead in perfect V-shaped formations. Efficient, aerodynamic teamwork. They take turns leading, sharing the burden of wind resistance. But the life of a bird is not all soaring skies and sweet songs. Survival is hard. Eggs must be hidden, nests built with care. Chicks are vulnerable, hungry, growing fast, and predators are everywhere. Hawks, snakes, humans. Yes, us. Because while birds have endured asteroids and ice ages, their greatest challenge today is us. habitat loss, climate change, glass buildings, light pollution, cats. It's estimated that in North America alone, nearly 3 billion birds have vanished since 1970. Species like the passenger pigeon, once numbering in the billions, were driven to extinction in just decades. And yet, there is hope. People across the world are working to protect birds, from planting native gardens and keeping cats indoors, to creating sanctuaries and banning harmful pesticides. Even little actions matter, like turning off lights during migration seasons so birds don't get disoriented. Why should we care? Because birds are indicators. They tell us about the health of our ecosystems. They pollinate, they control pests, they scatter seeds, they bring joy, and they remind us of freedom, of movement, of nature's infinite creativity. There's also something personal in our connection to birds. We envy their flight, we imitate their music, we name our teams, our aircraft, our constellations after them. They appear in our stories, from ancient Egyptian hieroglyphs to modern Disney films. They're messengers, symbols, companions. Some of us feed them, some of us paint them, some of us simply listen to them in the quiet moments. In a world filled with noise and speed, birds invite us to slow down, to look up, to listen, and maybe to dream. Because there's still wonder in watching a robin tug a worm from the earth, in seeing a heron glide low over a marsh, in hearing a woodpecker knock rhythmically on bark, or a nightjar call under the stars. They are wild but never far. From city streets to forest canopies, from mountaintops to beaches, birds live among us. And if you ever doubt the magic of life on Earth, just watch a bird take flight. They rise with the morning light. Perched high, silhouetted against a waking sky, they call out, not just to be heard, but to declare, "I am here." A sound that has echoed through time, long before we ever gave names to things. Every feather, every hollow bone, every heartbeat, crafted by millions of years of motion, of refinement, of necessity. Flight is not a miracle. It is the result of adaptation so perfect it feels divine. And yet not all of them need to fly to be free. Some walk, some run, some swim. But the presence remains, alert, aware, never entirely still. A kind of awareness we can only imagine. They notice what we miss. The change in wind before a storm. The rustle of life in a silent thicket. The movement of air between branches. The subtle shifts in season. And what is it like to trust the air? To leap from a height with no doubt that your body will catch the wind. To feel the lift not just as force, but as freedom. We build planes and marvel at rockets, but they do it daily, with no fuel, no engines, just wings, instinct, and will. There is a kind of confidence in their motion. They don't overthink, they don't hesitate. When it's time to move, they move. When it's time to leave, they leave. When the sky calls, they answer. Some journey farther than we can comprehend, crossing oceans, crossing hemispheres, crossing deserts and mountains, guided not by maps but by memory and something more, something woven into their being. They return to places they've never seen, they find trees long gone and somehow adapt. They build again, try again, sing again. And the songs, they are not just for sound, they are for identity, for connection, a voice that says, "This is who I am, this is my space, this is my hope." In the dark hours before dawn, when the world is still and heavy with dew, they are already awake, already calling, already beginning again. Their days are filled with small decisions. When to eat, when to rest, when to flee. But these are never idle choices. They are survival, made with precision. And yet, even in survival, there is beauty. The tilt of a head, the flick of a tail, the way light hits a wing at the right angle and refracts into color we can't name. Even in the most ordinary forms, there is elegance. Even in routine, there is wonder. They do not need us, but we have always needed them. For company, for guidance, for something to lift our eyes when the world pulls us down. They remind us that life is not confined to the ground, that there are dimensions above our heads, worlds we cannot walk into, only watch. And still we try, we watch them and build stories, we see them and feel things we can't explain. Longing, peace, curiosity, hope. There's something about watching one lift from a branch or wire and disappear into open space, a vanishing that feels like poetry, a departure that doesn't apologize. We envy them, perhaps, because they don't second-guess their place in the world. They simply are, they act, they adapt, they trust instinct, and it rarely fails them. Their lives may be short, their challenges many, but in every breath there is purpose. There is no waste, no distraction, only presence. And maybe that's what draws us in, that clarity, that confidence, that constant reminder that freedom is not a destination, it's a rhythm, a state of being. They live by the rhythm of light and dark, by warmth and cold, by food and hunger, by birth and departure. They feel the earth shift under their feet. They feel the wind turn. They adjust, not in panic, but in quiet mastery. They do not cling. When it is time to go, they go. When the nest is no longer needed, it is left behind. They carry nothing with them, no memory they don't need, no burden they don't require. And still, they return to the same winds, to the same trees, to the same places their ancestors knew. They remember even without words. They recognize even without names. When we lose them, something in the world feels smaller. When they thrive, we are reminded that nature still holds its place, still has power, still has grace. They are more than creatures, they are symbols. Symbols of freedom, of resilience and of lightness in a heavy world. They live in spaces we can't fully enter, but in every glimpse we catch a piece of what we're missing. Stillness, simplicity, flight. There is a kind of peace that settles in when you simply listen, not to traffic, not to words, but to the subtle things, the rustle of wings in leaves, the soft call from above, a flutter, then stillness. In those moments, the noise of our world recedes, deadlines blur, screens dim, and the only thing left is presence, a presence they never lose. They are fully alive in each second, not worried about what comes next, not replaying what just passed, just alive. That might be the deepest difference. We always reaching, they always arriving. We building futures, they existing in now. We often say they are free, but their freedom isn't lawless. It has structure, rhythm, pattern. They know when to rise and when to rest, when to speak and when to vanish. Their world, though light, is never careless. Their boundaries are not fences or screens. They are skies and seasons, tides and trees. And when something changes, when water dries or wind shifts, they shift too. There is no resistance, no denial, only motion, only trust. Trust that what they need will be found, that the sky will hold them, that the air will carry them, that each new morning is worth singing for. Perhaps that is what we most long to imitate. Not their flight, but their ease. The grace they show in change, the calm they carry through storms. They teach us that fragility and strength are not opposites, that you can be light and still endure, that you can be small and still make great journeys, that you can be vulnerable and still be beautiful. Their nests are temporary, their homes are always shifting, and yet they never seem lost, because home to them is not a place, it is a direction. It is instinct, intention, memory in motion. In a world filled with striving, they invite us to soften, to notice more, to carry less, to belong not by force, but by flow. They don't demand space, they fit into it. They make use of what is given and then give it back. The seed they eat today becomes the forest tomorrow. They take nothing they don't need, leave nothing behind they don't intend. Even their feathers fall as gifts. Soft remnants, scattered by the wind, carried as whispers of their passing. And in all their living, there is a quiet knowing. as if they understand things we've forgotten, things buried beneath our layers of concrete and noise. They remember how to rise with the sun, how to travel without roads, how to sing without shame, how to be alone without being lonely. They do not fear the sky. They do not resist the fall because they trust the rise. Even when chased, even when wounded, even when tired, they keep moving. Wings torn, feathers frayed, they still lift. Not because it's easy, but because it is their nature. And maybe, just maybe, it is ours too. We forget, sometimes, that we are part of nature. Not separate from it. Not above it, but within it. And birds, they remind us. They return us to something honest. Something we knew before we had words. Before we had borders, before we tried to control everything. They remind us to look up, to breathe, to pause before we speak, to observe before we act. They remind us that silence is not emptiness. It's depth, it's space, it's a canvas for song. And when they sing, especially when they don't know we're listening, it's not for applause, it's for being, for belonging, for joy. So next time you hear them, early in the morning, late in the evening, or somewhere unexpected in between, pause. Let that sound fill the space inside you that's grown too heavy, too fast, too loud. And remember, the world is still full of wonder, still full of life that doesn't need attention to be beautiful, still full of motion that asks for nothing, gives everything. You don't have to name them, you don't have to know their path, you just have to notice. And in that noticing, you're part of it too. Long pause, gentle ambient music, swells, subtle, ethereal. Because the sky is not just something to look at. It's a living highway of hope, a constant reminder that above the chaos, something still moves with grace. Something still sings. And even when we are grounded by worry, by work, by life, we can still find that rhythm. In stillness, in slowness, in a single breath, and the quiet rustle of wings. This is the story of birds, but more than that. This is the reminder to fly. And still, they remain long after the moment ends. After the sun dips below the edge, shadows stretch long and quiet around there. Somewhere tucked within the branches. Somewhere invisible, but felt. Because they don't need to be seen to be known. They don't need to speak to be heard. Their rhythm lingers like the echo of something sacred, too quiet to claim, too vast to hold, but always there, resting just behind the noise. Birds. Creatures of the sky, symbols of freedom, beauty, and sometimes mystery. They've fascinated us for thousands of years, appearing in myths, inspiring art, and even guiding science. But what are birds, really? Let's begin where all stories start, deep in time. Around 150 million years ago, in the late Jurassic period, a dinosaur walked, or rather flapped, into the fossil record. Archaeopteryx. Part reptile, part bird, it had feathers like a modern bird, but teeth and claws like a small dinosaur. This was no mere curiosity, it was a signal